Raining that night. Not the kind that cools you down, but the kind that soaks through your shoes and makes the whole city smell like rust and smoke. I was walking home from the night shift at the shop, hood up, hands deep in my pockets, just trying to make it to the bus stop before the next wave hit. Then I heard it. Pop, pop, pop. Not fireworks. Not in this part of Eastgate. Gunshots cut through the rain like someone slamming a metal door. My instinct said run the other way, but the screams pulled me in. Someone was calling for help. A voice cracking, young, scared. I turned the corner into an alley that reeked of piss and wet trash. The sound of tires screeching bounced off the walls. A black SUV fishtailed out onto the main road, taillights disappearing in the rain. On the ground, under a flickering sign that said, laundromat. A kid was bleeding out, clutching his side. He couldn't have been older than 19. Hoodie halfway torn off, sneakers soaked in blood. Yo! I shouted, dropping to my knees beside him. Hey, stay with me, man. His eyes rolled back for a second, then locked on me, wild, desperate. They got Darnell, he stammered, voice trembling. They came for both of us. Don't talk, I said, pressing down on the wound. My hands were slick with his blood before I even realized. You're gonna be all right, just hold pressure. He tried to push me away. I can't go to no hospital, bro. You're gonna die right here if you don't, I said, looking around for something, anything. My phone was dead. The rain was coming down harder now, thunder rolling in the distance. What the hell happened? But he didn't answer. His breathing was shallow, his lips turning pale. I tore off my work jacket, folded it, and pressed it against the wound. My heart was beating so hard it felt like it was echoing off the walls. I could smell burnt gunpowder mixed with the damp air. Somewhere down the block, a siren wailed. Come on, man, stay with me, I said. Hey, what's your name? He blinked slowly. Tai. Anjay. Tai. You're not dying here, you hear me? I didn't think. I just acted. I hooked my arms under his shoulders and lifted. The kid groaned in pain, nearly blacking out. He was light, but limp, like all the strength had left him. I carried him out of the alley, across the slick pavement, toward the one light still on, the corner store. Mr. Farid, the owner, was locking up. The moment he saw me dragging the kid, his eyes went wide. Hey, what happened? Shot, I said, gasping. Call an ambulance. He froze. No police, my friend. Call the damn ambulance, Farid. He fumbled with his phone, cursing in his language, hands shaking. I laid Tay down by the door, jacket still pressed to his wound. He was slipping away. Stay awake, man. Look at me, I said, slapping his cheek lightly. What happened? Who shot you? His eyes rolled, then focused for half a second. Trap set, wrong corner, he whispered. Then his hand fell from his chest. I pressed harder, yelling for Farid. Tell them to hurry the hell up. Rain kept falling, sirens got closer. I heard engines, not police sirens this time. Something louder, heavier. 3 black cars turned the corner fast, sliding on the wet street. The moment I saw them, I knew they weren't cops. Farid's face went pale. You must go. You go now. But before I could move, doors flew open and men jumped out. All dressed in dark clothes, gloved hands, faces hard. One of them, tall, with a shaved head and tattoos crawling up his neck, looked down at the bleeding kid and froze. Yo, that's Tay, he yelled. That's the boss's lil brother. The air shifted. I felt the weight of every eye on me. Another man, heavy build, cold eyes, stepped closer. Who the hell are you? He barked. I raised my hands, palms still bloody. I found him like this. I'm just trying to help. The big guy's jaw flexed. He looked down at Tay, then back at me. You touched him. Yeah, I said. He was bleeding out. I tried to stop it. He grabbed me by the collar and slammed me against the wall so hard my vision flashed white. You set this up? He growled. You with the deacons? What? No. I was walking home, man. I don't even know who he is. One of the others knelt by Tay, checking his pulse. He's alive, barely. Get him in the car, the big guy ordered. Two men lifted Tay and rushed him to the car. The big one didn't let me go. He looked into my eyes, and for a moment, I saw something behind the rage. Fear. You move, you die, he said, voice low.
I nodded fast.
I'm not moving. He released me, pushing off hard. I stumbled forward, almost falling. They loaded Tay into the back seat. One man climbed in, pressing his hands to the wound. Another jumped behind the wheel. The big guy turned to me one last time. If he dies, he said, you die too. And then they were gone. Tires screeching, taillights vanishing into the storm. I stood there, chest heaving, rain washing blood off my hands. Farid locked the door, shaking his head. You crazy, man. You bring death to my store. I couldn't even answer. My legs felt like jelly. My jacket was still in that alley, soaked in blood. All I could do was stand there, trying to understand what the hell just happened. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Didn't sleep either. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that kid's face. Pale, scared, blood pooling around him. I made coffee, but it tasted like metal. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. By noon, I turned on the news. Local Channel 7. Late-night shootout leaves 2 injured, 1 in critical condition, the anchor said. Police are investigating possible gang connections in the Eastgate area. The photo flashed on screen. Tay. Same hoodie, same face. My stomach dropped. I sat there, replaying everything in my head. The cars, the men, the way they looked at me. They knew who I was. They saw my face. If that kid died, I was done. I tried to convince myself otherwise. You did the right thing, I muttered. You helped someone, that's all. But I knew how things worked around here. The streets didn't care about right. They only cared about who belonged to who. By evening, I went to the shop anyway, trying to look normal. My boss, Raul, gave me a look. You all right, man? You look like you seen a ghost. Didn't sleep, I said. Long night, he grunted. You always got long nights. I kept my head down, working on an old Honda with busted brakes. But every sound, every backfire, every engine rev, made my heart jump. Around 6, a black SUV rolled slow past the shop. Not the same one, but close enough to freeze me. Raul didn't notice, but I did. The tinted window lowered halfway, just enough for someone inside to look at me. I couldn't see his face, but I knew he was watching. The car didn't stop, just kept rolling, disappearing down the block. My hands started shaking again. That night, I triple-locked the door to my apartment. I lived in a rundown complex on 83rd, walls thin as paper, neon light flickering outside. I turned the TV on low, trying to drown out my thoughts. But every time I blinked, I saw those cars again. At 2:14 a.m., someone knocked on my door. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 more. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't answer, didn't move, just listened. Then a voice, low, calm. Open up, bro. We just want to talk. No way. I backed away slowly, heart pounding. The knocking came again, harder this time. Don't make this hard, man. We ain't here to hurt you. I glanced at the window, too small to climb out. My phone was charging on the counter. I grabbed it, thinking maybe call 911. But then I remembered what happened to people who called cops in this neighborhood. The lock rattled. Last chance. Then silence. 5 seconds. 10. I exhaled slowly, chest tight. Then boom. The door flew open, hinges cracking. 3 men rushed in, guns out, flashlights cutting through the dark. I threw my hands up. Whoa, whoa. I didn't do nothing. Sit your ass down, one barked. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the couch. 1 man stayed by the door. The other 2 closed in. And then I saw him, the big guy from last night. Same hard eyes, same shaved head. He stepped inside, nodding to the others. Search the place. They moved fast, flipping cushions, checking the kitchen, the bathroom. I stood there, shaking. Where is it? He asked. Where's what? The jacket, he said coldly. The one you used last night. I left it in the alley, I said, with his blood on it. He stared for a moment, then nodded slightly. You sure? Yes. I didn't take nothing. The tension in the room hung heavy. One of the men came back from the kitchen holding a mug. He ain't lying, boss. Place clean. The big guy looked at me again. You got a name? Marcus, I said quickly. Marcus Hale. He nodded. Marcus, you saved Tay. I swallowed hard. Yeah, I guess. He studied me, expression unreadable. You didn't have to. Most people would have walked away. I almost did, I said, but I couldn't. Something flickered in his eyes. Something almost like respect. He's alive, he said finally. Hospital, private wing. If it weren't for you, he'd be gone. Relief hit me like a wave. Thank God. He nodded once. Tay been through a lot. Wrong people want him gone. You being there, that means something. Then his tone shifted sharper. But you talk about this to anyone, cops, neighbors, anybody, and you disappear. Understand? I nodded fast. Yeah, I get it. He motioned to his crew. Let's go. As they turned to leave, I blurted out, wait, what's your name? He paused in the doorway. Doesn't matter. Then he was gone. After they left, I sat there for a long time, staring at the busted door, the rain outside mixing with the city's glow. I should have been terrified, but deep down, under the fear, there was something else, a strange sense of connection. Like I'd been pulled into a story that wasn't mine, but now I couldn't get out of it. That night, I didn't sleep again, because in Eastgate, debts don't vanish, they circle back. And I had no idea that saving that kid would be the start of everything that came next. The city never really sleeps. It just hums, like a wounded engine that won't die no matter how hard you try to kill it. A week passed after that night, a week of looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows, thinking every car that slowed down near my building was them again. But they didn't come back. Not a word, not a whisper. I tried to convince myself it was over, that maybe I'd done my part, saved the kid, and now the streets had forgotten me. But the thing about Eastgate, the streets never forget. They just wait. Started small. The day after payday, I found an envelope slipped under my apartment door. No name, no message, just $300 in cash. Same night, the landlord texted me, rent received in full. We're good. Thing is, I hadn't paid him yet. Next morning, a new set of tires appeared on my old Civic. Brand new, same size, perfect fit. Someone even wiped the car clean. I stared at it for a long time, keys trembling in my hand. This wasn't luck. This was a message. They knew where I lived, what I drove, even how far behind I was on rent. And that meant one thing: I was being watched. At work, I tried to act normal. Raul noticed anyway. You good, man? You look like you've seen ghosts again.
I'm fine, Elite.
Just tired. Yeah? Well, whoever paid for them tires sure ain't tired. He smirked. Maybe you got a secret admirer, huh? Yeah, I said softly. Something like that. He laughed, not realizing how close to the truth that was. 3 nights later, I heard a knock again. Same rhythm, 3, pause, 2. I froze mid-bite, microwaved noodles going cold in my hand. I opened the door slowly this time, and there he was, the big guy. Same black hoodie, same cold stare. But this time, no guns. He gave me a nod. Marcus. I stepped aside. You gonna break the door again, or we good? He almost smiled. We good. He walked in, looking around my small apartment. 1 room, flickering light, sink full of dishes. You live alone? Yeah. He nodded. Tay been asking about you. Wanted to see who pulled him out that alley. He okay. He's healing. Got a long way to go, but he breathing. You saved his life. Glad to hear it. He looked at me for a long second, then said, he wants to meet you. That caught me off guard. Meet me? Why? He shrugged. Man's alive cause of you. You think he ain't curious? I didn't answer right away. Something about it didn't feel right. I'd done my part. Saved the kid. But the deeper I got involved, the more it felt like quicksand, 1 step closer and I'd never climb back out. He must have read it on my face. Ain't no trap, Marcus. You showed heart. You got no idea how rare that is around here. Yeah, I said. But I also got no idea who you are. He smiled faintly. Name's Kadeem. Most call me Cade. So that was him. The name I'd heard whispered in the neighborhood. Not loud, never on paper, but always with weight. Cade ran the East Side Saints, one of the toughest crews in the city. And I'd saved his little brother. I should have said no. Should have shut the door and kept my head down. Instead, I found myself following his black SUV through Eastgate at midnight, wondering how I ended up here. We drove past crack streets and boarded up liquor stores, the kind of places that made you feel like hope had left a long time ago. Neon signs flickered against wet asphalt. Somewhere in the distance, a train wailed. Cade's car turned into an alley behind a warehouse near the river. Two men stood outside, smoking. They nodded as we pulled in. Inside, it wasn't what I expected. Not some grimy trap spot, it was clean, organized. A table in the middle, laptops, maps, stacks of cash. People moved with purpose. Cade caught my look. We ain't savages, man. We run business. You fix cars. I fix problems. I didn't answer, just followed him up a metal staircase to an office that overlooked the floor. There, sitting on a couch, was Tay. Bandages around his chest, hoodie half-zipped, a scar peeking out, but alive, awake. And when he saw me, his eyes lit up. "Yo, that's him?" he said, voice cracking. "That's the dude who pulled me out?" Cade nodded.
Marcus Hale.
Tay smiled weakly. "Man, you a real one. I owe you my life." I shrugged. "Just did what anyone would." He shook his head. "Nah, ain't nobody do that around here. People see blood, they run. You stayed." Cade poured a drink and handed it to me. Whiskey. I took it, though my hand was shaking. "Thanks." He leaned against the desk, eyes never leaving me. "You work at that shop on 89th, right?" My throat tightened. "Yeah." "How you know that?" He smiled. "I know everything that happens in Eastgate."
Tay lau ghét xốp tì.
"Don't trip, man." He like Google, but scarier. Cade ignored the joke. "You keep your nose clean, Marcus. No records, no enemies. That's rare round here." "Guess I just like staying alive," I said. He nodded slowly. "Good answer." The room went quiet. Only sound was the rain tapping the window. Then Cade said, "You ever think about doing something more than turning wrenches?" "What you mean?" He sipped his drink. "You got heart, got instincts. You stayed when others ran. People like that, they don't belong stuck under cars for pennies." I frowned. "If this is where you offer me a job." He held up a hand. "Relax. You ain't one of us. I know that. But sometimes, I help people who help me." I set the glass down. "I don't want no handouts." He smirked. "It ain't charity. Think of it as mutual respect." Before I could ask what that meant, Tay said, "We got a problem though, bro." Cade glanced at him. "What kind of problem?" "The deacon's been asking questions. They know somebody pulled me out the alley. They think it was one of ours." Cade's expression hardened. "They say a name?" "Nah, but they said whoever touched me. They coming for him." For a second, nobody spoke. Then Cade turned to me. "You hear that?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah." He stepped closer, voice low. "That means you ain't safe no more." The next few days were a blur. I started seeing cars tailing me, subtle but there. Sometimes it was just headlights in the rear view. Sometimes a figure across the street watching too long. At night, I heard footsteps outside my apartment, whispers in the hallway. Fear crawled into everything. My sleep, my food, my thoughts. Then one night, I came home to find my door open. I froze in the hall, heart hammering. Inside, drawers flipped, couch cushions cut open, TV cracked. Someone had been looking for something. I stepped inside slowly, glass crunching under my boots. Then I saw it. Spray painted on the wall in red. "Snitch Savior." That's when I knew the deacons were onto me. I packed a bag that night. A few clothes, my old revolver, the one my uncle left me before he died. I hadn't touched it in years, but now it felt necessary. I called Raul, told him I was sick. He didn't ask questions. Then I sat on the floor till morning, staring at that word on my wall until it blurred into nothing. By noon, there was another knock. This time, I didn't hesitate. I gripped the gun tight, finger near the trigger. "Marcus," a voice said softly. "It's Cade." I lowered it a little, still cautious. Opened the door halfway. He saw the mess inside and sighed. "They already came?" "Yeah," I said. "You were right." He stepped in, scanning the room. "Deacons move fast. You said they'd come for me. You didn't say they'd find me this quick." He gave a small nod. "That's on me. I should have handled it sooner." "What you mean, handled it?" He met my eyes. "I mean we're gonna make sure they don't come again." That night I rode with him. Didn't ask where. Didn't want to know. But the way his crew was geared up, gloves, masks, quiet, I already knew. We parked near the old projects on Jefferson, where the Deacons ran their corner. Rain again, just like that first night. Always the damn rain. Cade looked at me before getting out. "You don't gotta be here." I swallowed hard. "Maybe I do." He studied me for a second, then nodded. "Stay low." They moved like shadows. 4 of them, silent, quick. I stayed by the car, heart racing. From the alley came muffled shouts. Then gunfire, short, controlled bursts. Pop, pop, pop. Same sound as the night I found Tay. I froze. Every echo dragged me back to that moment. Blood, rain, fear. 5 minutes later, it was over. Cade and his men came back. Calm. Quiet. No smiles. Just silence. He got in, wiped his hands with a rag. "It's done." I didn't ask what done meant. We drove off without headlights, city lights flickering across the wet windshield. Nobody spoke the whole ride back. When he dropped me off, Cade finally said, "You good now? They won't bother you again." I looked at him, unsure whether to feel relieved or sick. Did you kill them?" He stared out the window, then said, "I protected what's mine. That includes you." The words hit me harder than I expected. He didn't have to say it, but I knew. I wasn't just some stranger anymore. I was in now, whether I liked it or not. I nodded slowly. "Thanks." He gave me a small nod. "You ever need anything, you call me. You earned that." Then he drove off, taillights disappearing into the night again. The next morning, I walked out onto the balcony and watched the city wake up. Kids heading to school, buses hissing down the wet streets, that constant hum of life pretending nothing ever happens here. But I knew better. I could feel the shift, like I'd crossed some invisible line. Yesterday I was just a mechanic. Now I was the guy the Saints looked out for, and that meant something dangerous. That night I couldn't sleep again. I poured myself a drink and stared at the reflection in my window. My hands didn't shake anymore. Maybe that was the scariest part. Because the moment you stop being scared of the streets, that's when you become part of them. And I wasn't sure I wanted to know what that meant. The first thing I noticed was the quiet. Not the good kind, the kind that comes before something bad happens. The neighborhood had that tension again. Dogs barking at nothing, doors half open, everyone moving quicker than usual. You could feel it in the air. Something was brewing. It had been 3 weeks since that night with Cade, since he handled the Deacons. No more threats, no more spray paint. My life started to feel normal again. Almost, but normal don't last long in Eastgate. I was at the shop, wiping grease off my hands when I saw them. 2 black Chargers pulling up slow. Windows tinted, music low. Raul looked up from under the hood of a truck. "You expecting somebody?" I shook my head, already feeling my stomach tighten. The doors opened and out stepped Tay. Clean hoodie, heeled up, a grin on his face. Cade followed, all black as usual, shades on even though the sun was gone behind the smog.
Yo, Marcus.
Tay called out, arms wide. "My man." Raul frowned. "Friends of yours?" "Sort of," I said. They walked over, and Tay hugged me like we'd known each other for years. "Man, you don't even know how much you helped me." "For real," he said. "I owe you more than I can ever pay." Cade gave Raul a polite nod, then looked at me. "Got a minute?" "Yeah," I said, wiping my hands. "What's going on?" He motioned toward the car. Come take a ride. I hesitated. Everything okay? He smiled faintly. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be asking. I told Raul I'd be back in an hour, then slid into the back seat with them. The leather still smelled new. Tay was on his phone, grinning, tapping away at something. Cade sat silent, staring out the window. We drove through downtown, past the glowing signs and half-dead buildings, until we hit a part of Eastgate I hadn't been in since I was a kid. The old industrial zone. Half the warehouses were empty, windows boarded, graffiti everywhere. The car slowed near one with faded letters that read Marlow Freight. Inside, there were cars, crates, and at least a dozen men moving around like an army. It wasn't chaos, it was order. Controlled. Efficient. Cade led me past them into a smaller room. Blueprints on the table, guns on racks, stacks of cash in plastic wrap. Tay followed, still smiling like nothing was serious. You ever wonder, Cade said, lighting a cigarette, how a city like this keeps breathing? Cops, politicians, dealers, all taking from the same pot, pretending they ain't. I didn't answer. I just looked around. He exhaled smoke slowly. Everybody takes. Everybody owes. That's the game. Then he looked at me. Thing is, Marcus, you in it now too. My throat went dry. What do you mean? Tay sat on a crate. Deacons ain't gone, bro. That hit last month, that was just the muscle. The head's still breathing. Dude named Lennox. He running things quiet, but he's pissed. Cade crushed the cigarette under his boot. He knows your face. That hit me like a gut punch. What? He saw you, Cade said flatly. Security cam caught you carrying Tay that night. He wants you dead, Marcus. Said he's gonna make it personal. I stared at him. And you're just telling me this now? We only just found out, Tay said. He been underground since the hit. Cade stepped closer. We can't let him get to you first. So, you got two choices. Leave town or stay under my protection. I laughed nervously. Leave town? I can't just disappear. You can if you want to live. I looked between them. And what's the catch if I stay? Cade smiled faintly. You help us find him. I shook my head. Nah, man. I'm not built for that. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You saved my brother's life. That means you're family now. And when family's in danger, we move together. Ain't no sitting it out. The next few days felt like I was living someone else's life. Cade's men followed me everywhere. For protection. At work, one would park across the street. At home, another car idled near the corner. It was safety, but it felt like a cage. Then Tay started coming around more. Sometimes with food, sometimes just to talk. He had this energy, like a kid still trying to prove himself to the world. You ever think we could have been brothers? He said once, eating takeout on my couch. I laughed. You serious? Yeah, man. I mean, you from the same kind of block, right? Just took a different turn. If I had your head, maybe I'd be working on cars too instead of dodging bullets. You say that like it's peaceful. He grinned. Better than what I got. He wasn't wrong. But part of me knew he'd never really leave that life. None of them did. It was in their blood. Then, everything flipped. It was a Saturday. Hot, sticky, the kind of heat that makes the city feel angry. I closed up early to grab groceries. As I stepped out the corner market, I saw movement across the street. Two men, watching me. They weren't saints. Wrong posture, wrong vibe. When they started crossing, I dropped the bag and ran. Bullets tore through the glass behind me. Crack, crack, crack. People screamed. I ducked behind a parked car, heart pounding. Yo, Marcus, one of them yelled. Lennox sends his love. I peeked out, saw the glint of a pistol. They were closing in fast. Then, out of nowhere, a black Charger screeched around the corner, engine roaring. Gunfire erupted from inside. Pop, pop, pop. The shooters dove for cover as Tay leaned out the window, yelling, Get in! I sprinted, dove through the passenger door, and Tay hit the gas. The city blurred by in streaks of light and smoke. You good? He yelled. Am I good? They just tried to kill me. He grinned. Then it's a good thing we were watching. We ended up back at the warehouse. Cade was waiting. The second he saw the bullet holes in the charger, his jaw tightened. They came for him again? He asked. Yeah, Tay said. Lennox's boys. Cade slammed his fist into a crate, wood cracking. I told him this was done. He turned to me. You see their faces? 2 of them, I said. One had a scar over his eye. Cade nodded. That's Ghost. Lennox's right hand. He paced the room thinking. They're getting bold. Tay looked at me. You see now? Ain't no leaving this clean, bro. They ain't gonna stop till one of us gone. I didn't say anything, because he was right. That night, Cade called a meeting. I sat in the corner while his crew gathered. 20 men, all armed, faces hard. Cade stood at the front, calm but dangerous. Lennox crossed a line, he said. He wants blood? We'll flood the streets if we have to. But this ends tonight. The room buzzed with tension. Tay leaned forward, eyes burning. Let's do it. Cade's gaze shifted to me. You don't have to be here. I didn't ask to be part of this, I said. But you said I was family now, right? He nodded. Then family moves as one. That was the moment I knew I was in. No turning back. The plan was simple. Lennox was holed up in an old motel on the south end. Cade's intel said he'd be meeting with a buyer that night. Small window, big risk. We rolled out after midnight. For cars. Headlights off. Rain starting again, always the rain. Cade's voice came through the radio. No mistakes. In and out. My hands gripped the wheel tight, knuckles white. Tay sat beside me, checking his gun, humming some tune under his breath. You ever kill somebody? He asked suddenly. I shook my head.
No.
He smiled softly. Don't, if you can help it. Then the radio crackled. We in position. The motel came into view. 2 floors, flickering neon, broken windows. Cade's team spread out, silent. Tay nodded at me. Stay behind me. We moved fast up the stairwell. Rain poured through the holes in the roof. Cade kicked open the door, boom, and the world exploded into chaos. Gunfire everywhere. Screams, glass shattering, bullets tearing through walls. I hit the floor, ears ringing. Tay returned fire, shouting, left side, left. I crawled behind a bed frame, heart slamming against my ribs. Then I saw him. A man ducking behind the bathroom door, loading a clip, scar over his eye. Ghost. He raised the gun. And before I even thought, I grabbed the old revolver from my belt and fired. Bang! The shot echoed, deafening. Ghost stumbled back, eyes wide, clutching his chest. Then he dropped. For a moment, everything froze. I just stared at him, at what I'd done. Then Tay pulled me up. We gotta move. We ran out into the hall. Cade and 2 others were there. Smoke in the air. Lennox gone. Where is he? Cade shouted. Back exit, someone yelled. We chased through the rain, down the alley behind the motel. There, a black sedan peeling out. Cade raised his gun, fired 3 times. The car fishtailed, hit a pole. They dragged Lennox out, blood dripping down his arm. Cade walked up slow, gun steady. No words, just 2 shots. Pop, pop. Silence. The rain hissed on the asphalt like it was trying to wash the city clean. But we all knew, nothing in Eastgate ever stayed clean. Later, back at the warehouse, everyone was celebrating. Drinks, laughter, relief. But I couldn't join in. My hands still smelled like gunpowder. My stomach felt hollow.
Tay noted.
You good, bro? I killed a man, I said quietly. He nodded. Yeah, and if you didn't, he'd have killed you. I shook my head. That's not who I am. He looked down, then said, It is now. Cade walked over, calm as ever. You did good, Marcus. Good, I snapped. That man's dead. He leaned in, voice low. That man was death. You just beat him to it. I didn't respond. Couldn't. Because part of me knew he was right. And that scared me more than anything. When I got home, I sat in the dark. The rain had stopped. Sirens in the distance, faint and tired. I looked at my reflection in the window, the same face, but something behind the eyes had changed. Something cold, something I couldn't take back. I whispered to myself, "You just became one of them," and the city outside whispered back. Quiet, steady, merciless. Morning came, but it didn't feel like morning. Felt like an aftershock. The kind that leaves everything standing but cracked in ways you can't see. I hadn't slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ghost's face. That flash of shock, then nothing. The way the rain mixed with his blood. You think killing somebody's gonna make sense when it happens. But it don't. It just hangs there, heavy, waiting to come back up when the world gets quiet. For the next few days, Eastgate went silent. No sirens, no shootouts, no whispers. People said Lennox's crew scattered. Some locked up, some buried, some gone missing. On paper, it was over. But inside me, something was still burning. I went back to work like nothing happened. Raoul didn't ask questions. Maybe he didn't need to. I was quieter, meaner, maybe. I caught myself staring at the door every time someone walked in, waiting for it all to come back around. That's how it goes in this city. You don't get away clean. You just get lucky for a while. One afternoon, Tay showed up at the shop again. Same big grin, same energy. But I could see something different behind it this time. He wasn't the kid I'd pulled off the pavement weeks ago. He had that look in his eyes now, the one his brother carried. Cold, focused, hardened. "Yo, Marcus," he said, clapping my shoulder. "We celebrating tonight. You gotta come through." I frowned. "Celebrating what?" He smirked. "You, man. You saved my life and helped take out Lennox. That's big. Cade wants to show love." I shook my head. "Nah, I think I'm done with all that." He leaned against the car, smile fading. "You done? You think it's that easy?" I looked at him. "I did what I had to. That's it." He laughed softly. "Yeah, I used to say that too." Then he pushed off the car and looked at me like he was seeing through me. "You ever wonder why Cade trusts you so fast?" I frowned. "What?" "He don't trust nobody. Not even me sometimes. But you? He looks at you like you're his brother. Like you're the next him. That hit me wrong." "What are you talking about?" He shook his head. "Just come through tonight, man. Don't make him think you're turning your back." Then he walked off, leaving me with that sinking feeling. The kind that tells you something's shifting under your feet and you can't stop it. That night, I went. I shouldn't have, but I did. Part of me wanted to see it, to end it clean. Part of me didn't want them thinking I was scared. The warehouse was alive again. Music thumping, smoke in the air, bottles clinking. But it didn't feel like celebration. Felt like a test. Cade stood in the center, calm as always, watching his men move around like chess pieces. When he saw me, he smiled that same controlled smile. "Marcus," he said, raising a glass, "to the man who kept my brother breathing." The room cheered, bottles raised, voices echoing through the steel walls. I lifted my glass half-heartedly. "I didn't do it for that." "I know," Cade said, eyes narrowing slightly. "That's what makes you different." He motioned for me to follow. We stepped into his office. Quiet, dim, walls lined with money counters and maps. He closed the door, then turned, face serious now. "You did good the other night," he said. "Handled yourself like a soldier." "I'm not a soldier," I said. He tilted his head. "No, but you could be." I laughed bitterly. "You want me to join your crew now?" He didn't answer right away, just lit a cigarette and stared out the window. "Every man needs a purpose," he said finally. "Yours ain't fixing cars anymore. You've seen too much to go back to that." I shook my head. "You're wrong." He looked over his shoulder. "Am I? You think the cops don't know about what happened at the motel? You think the deacons don't still have eyes out there?" He stepped closer. "The only thing keeping you breathing right now is me." There it was. The trap. The same one that takes every man who thinks he can dance with the streets and walk away untouched. Later that night, Tay found me sitting by the loading dock, staring at the rain. "You look like you just saw a ghost," he said, sitting beside me. "I think I did," I muttered. "Your brother wants me in." He He nodded slowly. Yeah, I figured. I turned to him. You cool with that? He shrugged. He thinks you can keep me grounded. Keep me from doing stupid shit. I laughed dryly. That's a full-time job. He smiled. You ain't wrong. We sat there in silence for a while, listening to the rain tap the metal roof. Then Tay said quietly, you know, sometimes I wish I never got in that mess. That night you saved me, it was supposed to be the end. I thought maybe I'd get out, go straight. You still can, I said. He looked down. Nah, not with Cade. He built this whole world for me. For us. If I walk away, it's like saying it meant nothing. I nodded. I knew that feeling too well, the weight of loyalty. He looked at me. You ever think maybe he's wrong? About what keeps people alive? I didn't answer, because I was starting to wonder the same thing. A few nights later, everything broke. Started with a phone call. Raul panicked, yelling into the receiver. Marcus, the shop's on fire. I froze. What? I just got there. It's gone, man. Everything. I dropped the phone and ran outside, grabbed my keys, drove like a madman through the streets. When I got there, it was already over. Flames dying down, smoke choking the air, engines hissing, neighbors watching from the sidewalk. And right there, on the curb, was a message sprayed in black paint. No saints, no héroes. I knew what it meant. It wasn't the cops. It wasn't random. Someone was sending a warning. Maybe payback for Lennox, maybe something deeper. Cade showed up minutes later, calm but cold. He looked at the message, then at me. You good? He asked. I glared at him. You think this was random? He didn't answer. Tay pulled up next, eyes wide. Yo, what the hell happened? I turned to him, voice breaking. This was my life, Tay. Everything I had. Cade put a hand on my shoulder. Then let's take theirs. I stepped back. No, I'm done. He frowned. You don't get to be done. I met his eyes. I didn't sign up for this. He smiled faintly, that same dangerous calm. You did the moment you saved my brother. He turned to walk away, but I grabbed his arm. If I stay with you, everything I touch burns. He looked back. That's life in Eastgate. Then he left me there, watching my past turn to ash. That night, I packed a bag. Just a few clothes, some cash, and the photo of my mom from when I was a kid, the only thing that ever made me feel safe. I didn't know where I'd go, just that I couldn't stay. Not after this. But before I could leave, someone knocked on my door. Soft, hesitant. It was Tay. He looked nervous. You really leaving? I got nothing left here. He swallowed hard. Then take me with you. I blinked. What? He stepped inside, voice low. Cade's losing it, man. He thinks someone inside snitched about the motel. He's talking about cleaning house. I frowned. And you think he'd come for you? He hesitated. That was enough of an answer. Tay, I said quietly, if you run, he'll never stop hunting you. He looked up, eyes desperate. I'd rather run than end up like him. I stared at him, the same kid I pulled off the ground weeks ago. And I realized something. I couldn't save him twice. Still, I nodded. Okay, we'll leave at dawn. But dawn came with blood. We were loading my car when we heard engines. Headlights flooded the street. Black SUVs, tinted windows.
Tay froze.
It's him. Cade stepped out, flanked by his men. Calm, icy, betrayed. Going somewhere? He asked. Tay stepped forward. Cade, listen. Don't, Cade said, raising his hand. You think I don't know? You've been talking to Lennox's leftovers, trying to make your own move. That's not true, Tay said. I swear. But Cade was already shaking his head, disappointment carved deep into his face. I gave you everything, he said. And you repay me with this? He turned his gaze to me. And you, I thought you were different. Cade, don't do this, I said. He's your brother. He sighed. Exactly. Then everything exploded, shouts, gunfire, smoke. I pulled Tay behind the car as bullets tore through the metal. He was hit in the side, gasping. I pressed my hand against the wound. Cade, I yelled. Stop. He's bleeding. But Cade just stood there, face blank, gun still smoking. He made his choice, he said quietly. I looked at Tay, his breath coming shallow now, eyes wide with panic. Marcus, he whispered, don't let him win. Then his hand slipped from mine, and everything went silent. Cade lowered his gun, looking at his brother's body like it wasn't real. For a second, just 1 second, I saw it hit him. The man behind the monster. The pain. The loss. Then it was gone. He looked at me. You should have left when you had the chance. I didn't think. I just moved. Grabbed Tay's gun. Fired once. Bang. Cade stumbled back, shock flashing across his face. He dropped to his knees, blood spreading across his chest, eyes locking on mine. You, he rasped. You were supposed to save us. I stared at him, the man I'd helped, the man who dragged me into hell. Then I whispered, I did. You just couldn't see it. He fell forward, motionless. The sirens came minutes later. Lights flashing, voices shouting, doors slamming. I stood there, hands raised, smoke still in the air. When they cuffed me, I didn't fight, didn't speak, because for the first time in weeks, the city felt quiet again. Not safe, not healed, just quiet. That night, in the back of the cruiser, I looked out the window as they drove past the blocks I used to call home. The rain started again, streaking the glass like tears. I thought about Tay, about Cade, about the streets that take and never give back. And for the first time, I wasn't angry. I was just tired. The cell was cold, but it was quiet. Too quiet. It had been 3 months since that night. 3 months since the blood, the smoke, the sirens. 3 months since Tay's body hit the pavement and Cade bled out beside him. The end of the Deacons, the end of everything that tied me to Eastgate. Some nights, I still heard it. Gunfire echoing down concrete alleys. Tay's voice calling my name. The smell of gasoline and wet asphalt. Played on loop like the city refused to let me forget. I wasn't doing time for murder, they called it self-defense. The detectives pieced it together after a few witnesses spoke up. Raul even testified that I tried to stay clean. They gave me 18 months for possession and resisting arrest, something light, like they knew I'd already served a heavier sentence on the streets. But being in here wasn't about the time. It was about what was left of me when the time was done. They called me the mechanic inside. Some of the guys respected that, said I wasn't like the rest. Others didn't care. You learn quick in jail that silence is a language. You don't brag, don't lie, don't explain. You just move. But nights were different. Nights were when ghosts came to visit. Tay first, sitting at the end of my bunk, same hoodie, same lost eyes. Then Cade. Not angry, just disappointed. Like a father whose son walked off the wrong path. One night I asked him, in my head, why'd you pull me in, man? Why couldn't you just let me go? But I already knew, because the streets don't let go. They hold on until they hollow you out. And when they finally do let go, it's 'cause there's nothing left to keep. I started fixing things for the guards, radios, coffee machines, even a busted motorcycle carb they smuggled in for fun. It gave me purpose, something to do with my hands besides remember. One afternoon, Officer Daniels dropped a note on my workbench. No name, just words written in messy ink. Ain't no heroes, but some people still owe you one. R. I stared at it for a long time. Raul. Guess he hadn't forgotten. That letter hit me harder than I expected. For the first time in months, I felt something like warmth. Like maybe all the blood I'd spilled didn't drown everything good. When my release day came, it felt unreal. The air outside hit me different. Sharp, alive, like the city was daring me to breathe it again. Eastgate hadn't changed. Same cracked sidewalks, same faded murals, same sound of buses and arguments. But it looked smaller now, quieter, like it knew I didn't belong anymore. I walked down toward what used to be Raul's shop, or what was left of it. The fire had gutted half the block, but someone rebuilt. A new sign hung over the garage, Taywise Auto Service. I froze. The paint was fresh, but the name hit me like a punch. Raul came out wiping his hands, saw me, and broke into a grin. Look who's back. I smiled weakly. Didn't think you'd still be here. He shrugged. Somebody's gotta keep the wheels turning. I pointed at the sign. You did that for him? He nodded. For both of you. Kid had heart. And you saved more lives than you think. I didn't answer, just stared at the name until my eyes blurred. Raoul clapped my shoulder. You got a place if you want it. No questions. Just work. I wanted to say yes right then, but my voice got caught somewhere between guilt and gratitude. That night, I sat outside the shop, watching the streetlights flicker on one by one. Kids rode bikes past the alley where I once bled. Sirens wailed somewhere far off, like a ghost of what used to be. I took out the photo I'd carried through everything, my mom, smiling in front of that same old Chevy I used to fix with her. Back then, I thought being a man meant surviving whatever came at you. Now I knew better. Being a man meant knowing what not to carry with you. A week later, I was back under a hood, grease on my hands. Music low, sunlight cutting through dust. Felt right. For the first time in years, it felt right. Then one afternoon, a car pulled up I didn't recognize. Matte black, tinted windows. My stomach tightened before my mind could catch up. Old instincts die hard. The door opened and a woman stepped out. Early 30s, braids, denim jacket. She looked nervous but determined. You Marcus? She asked. Yeah. She nodded, glancing down before pulling something from her pocket. A small silver chain. It was Tay's, the one he wore every day. He told me if anything happened to him, I should find you, she said softly. Said you were the only real one left. I took the chain, felt the cold metal against my palm. My throat closed up. He was my little brother, she added quietly. Different moms, but same blood. He always talked about getting out. I nodded slowly. He tried. She smiled sadly. Guess that's what matters. She turned to leave, then stopped. He'd be glad to know his name's on the sign. After she left, I sat there a long time, staring at that chain, letting the memories hit me one by one. The night in the rain, the look in Cade's eyes, the way Tay laughed like he still believed in something better. Time passed. Seasons changed. Work kept me sane. The world kept spinning. Every now and then, a young kid would wander into the shop asking about jobs, saying they wanted to learn the game. I'd look them in the eyes, hand them a wrench and say, "This the only game worth learning." They'd laugh, not understanding. But that was okay. Maybe one day they would. Sometimes at night, I still drive through Eastgate. Not to visit, not to mourn, just to remember where I came from. The graffiti's fading now, the block's quieter. But under the noise, you can still hear it, the hum of something ancient, something heavy. The streets don't forget. They just sleep between tragedies. And every time I roll past that old warehouse, I swear I can still see them. Tay leaning against a car, Cade watching from the shadows. Not ghosts exactly, just echoes. Reminders of how close I came to being one of them. Now, when I tell my story, if anyone ever asks, I keep it simple. I say, I saved a kid once. Didn't know it'd save me back. Because that's the truth. The streets don't give second chances, but sometimes they hand you a moment, a flicker of something real, and it's on you to hold on to it. Before I close the shop every night, I touch that silver chain hanging on the wall. Not as a trophy, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that some debts can be paid without blood. The city still moves outside. Sirens, laughter, heartbreak. Same rhythm, same song. But I walk home different now. Lighter, free maybe. And when the streetlights flicker behind me, I can almost hear Tay's voice, laughing through the static of memory. Don't let him win, Marcus. I smile to myself. Nah, I whisper. Not anymore.